I used to think affairs only happened when love had died. Until my best friend's son looked at me in a way that made it hard to breathe. I last saw him just after high school. Thin, clumsy, perpetually immersed in a game or a dispute with his mom. Once he was merely her son, a figure who lingered only in fleeting, courteous hellos shared over coffee in the kitchen. As I opened the door to my friend's house, I found him transformed, taller, broader, his presence more substantial. A shift stirred beneath my skin. His face had matured, sharpened at the jaw, softened by the eyes. His gaze held 1,000 unspoken words. It felt as though he recognized me not as his mother's friend, but as someone deserving of his attention now. He smiled first, and I instinctively replied. Yet my chest constricted with an unnamed feeling. My friend greeted me with her typical banter. Yet my focus wandered. He leaned against the kitchen counter, forearm muscles tensing as he reached for a glass, his voice dropping to a low, dry tone. That evening he hardly spoke, not to me at least. Yet, each time I glanced up, his gaze was fixed on me. Not gazing, simply observing, as if he sought to uncover secrets I unknowingly revealed. Dinner felt easy, comfortable, brimming with the same old tales friends tell when conversation lacks. He remained mostly silent, offering smirks or half-hearted laughs that cut a bit too deep. I noticed, but my friend didn't. I observed it all. The room radiated an unexpected warmth. I fiddled with the neckline of my blouse, feeling the fabric brush against my collarbone. I slipped away to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my wrists. I gazed into the mirror, confronting the stranger I sought to conceal. Upon my return, they were wrapping up dessert, and he rose to assist with the plates. He grabbed it before I could, our fingers barely touching. Only a touch, just enough to erase my next thought. I rose to depart after my coffee. My friend mentioned some laid-back weekend plans. I acknowledged, embraced warmly. Just as I approached the door, he slipped behind me and swung it open before my hand could grasp the handle. "Drive carefully," he murmured, his breath warm against my neck. I glanced over, seeking signs of jest, of mischief. Yet his face bore no smile. His face was a mask, revealing nothing, nearly apathetic. He remarked, "Too bad you're nearby. Complicates matters." He stepped back, leaving the door ajar, his gaze drifting away. My hands quivered on the wheel as I drove. I convinced myself it was trivial, merely a young man seeking to be witty, probing limits that weren't there. That night, as I undressed in the bathroom, I saw my body in a new light, neither critically nor curiously, with an attention I hadn't experienced in years. I traced my fingers along my collarbone, mimicking the gaze I had caught earlier. I opened my underwear drawer, pausing to gaze at the white lace untouched for months. A spark ignited within. Not a memory, but a whisper of what's to come. My husband lay in bed, drowsy, absorbed in his tablet. He glanced up, offered a quick smile, then returned his gaze to the screen. I rested next to him, quiet, partially clothed. He overlooked it. Perhaps he knew but opted to remain silent. That's how we've been operating recently. Soft, courteous evasion of the unspoken. In the shadows, I revisited that instant at the threshold. His voice whispered near my ear. "A moment hangs before he speaks." I anticipated his presence. Expected our paths to cross once more. Part of me craved that more than anything else in weeks, even if I tried to deny it. Turning away from my husband, I turned away from my husband, trying to quiet the stir within me. Gradually, gently. It wasn't quite longing. It lingered, the echo of recognition. That, I believe, was what I had long been missing. Seeing him again so soon was unexpected. That thought lingered since that evening, settling into the quiet corners of my days. Folding laundry, cooking dinner, brushing my teeth. My husband right there beside me. I didn't invite that thought. It pulsed like static just below the surface. A soft murmur lingers from a distant source. Yet life, with its subtle harshness, appears to recognize the internal changes within you. Tuesday arrived. It sticks in my mind. It was laundry day. I stepped out, attire haphazard. Dress made of cotton, barefaced. Hair tied back in a casual, unremarkable way. I visited my friend's house to drop off a baking dish. I had no intention of lingering. I hesitated to knock initially. I slipped in through the back door just like always. She was absent. The house stood silent. In the hallway I paused, dish in hand, poised to abandon it on the counter and fade away unnoticed. Yet he was present. I didn't hear him. He emerged at the kitchen's edge, barefoot, clutching a coffee mug, eyes heavy with sleep. "Hey," he said, his voice gravelly from sleep. "I didn't notice your arrival." "I dropped this off," I said, raising the dish a bit as if that clarified it all. He entered the kitchen, resting against the counter. His t-shirt clung in ways that drew my gaze irresistibly. He appeared as if he'd just rolled out of bed, unprepared for company. For a brief instant I felt ridiculous in that spot. Married, almost twice his age, clutching a dish like a suburban stereotype. "Care for some coffee?" he inquired. I ought to have declined. I felt it in every fiber of my being. I nodded. He glided serene and unfazed. I lingered at the kitchen's edge, arms crossed, feigning indifference to his proximity as he poured. He passed the cup, our fingers grazing once more. This encounter felt intentional. It remained. We stood there, locked in silence in that all-too-familiar kitchen. I took a sip of the coffee. It was intense, harsh. I was indifferent. He studied me, surprised by my presence. I had no intention of lingering. "Were you always this spontaneous?" I arched an eyebrow. "Is this your usual vibe, strolling about half-clothed?" He smiled. "It varies by the observer." Once more the silence lingers. Smooth. Something weightier. His eyes traveled from my face to my collarbone, then dipped lower. The air thickened, a heavy pause enveloping us. "I must leave," I declared, yet I remained still. He placed his mug on the table. "Ought you?" My gaze fixed on him. I aimed for a casual remark, something airy to drift away, but silence lingered. He moved in. Step by step, the edge of the kitchen counter pressed against my back, its coolness a jolt through the thin fabric of my dress. He kept his distance. Stood too close, right in front of me. He admitted to having thoughts of her. The words struck deeper than expected. Young, bold, perhaps reckless. Yet, his voice held no trace of arrogance. Only truth. And that shattered me more than anything else ever could. No response came. I was unable to. His hand rose, slow and deliberate, brushing my jaw. Lightly, just the back of his fingers brushing. His touch ignited my skin. Finally occurred. He leaned in just slow enough for me to pull back, to laugh it off. Yet I did not. I tilted my head, eyes closing as his lips approached. The kiss came quickly. It was decisive. It was ablaze unexpectedly, charged with emotion neither of us dared to name, akin to igniting a match and witnessing its flame before thought could intervene. My hand sought something to hold on to, grounding me in the moment. One grasped his chest, the other clutched the counter's edge. I savored coffee and another flavor, something pressing, something fresher than I recalled experiencing. It stretched on, fleeting yet eternal. I withdrew, breath halted, heart pounding. "Cannot," I murmured. Yet I remained still. He gazed at me, his eyes deeper than ever. A vehicle's entryway. It cleaved the moment in half. I recoiled, almost toppling the dish, thumped it onto the counter. "I must leave," I repeated. My voice trembled, and I loathed that he could sense it. He let me go. Nodded. Leisurely. "Catch you later." I stepped out, never glancing behind. Slipped into the car, fingers clenched around the steering wheel, knuckles pale. My pulse raced through every part of me. In my ears, my throat, the gap between my legs. At home, I tossed my dress into the hamper as if it had deceived me. I slipped into a muted, gentle fabric. I glided through the house, shunning my own image. My husband returned home later than normal. His lips brushed my cheek. I recoiled. He overlooked it, or feigned ignorance. That night, as he reached for me in bed, I surrendered. His hands felt like home, his rhythm a well-worn path. Yet I lay there, eyes fixed on the ceiling, battling the echoes of another hand, another mouth, another presence. Once it ended, I claimed exhaustion. He rolled over, satisfied. I turned from him, clutching a pillow to my belly as if it could ease the pain. No tears fell. No guilt was felt. A peculiar emptiness lingered, as if something had shattered within me, and I hesitated to mend the breach. It was more than a kiss. A new dawn. I realized I would allow it to unfold once more. I believed it would be simple to overlook. I wished to hide the memory away in a silent, distant part of me and move forward as if nothing had changed. I had accomplished it previously. Concealed letdowns, unfulfilled desires, and quiet grudges. It had become second nature. This time it was unique. The kiss marked me forever. The imprint of his lips lingered, fingers brushing my jaw. The mornings held his flavor, a warmth igniting beneath my clothes at the sight of my own reflection. I attempted to cast it aside. I convinced myself it was a blunder, a whim, a trivial pleasure that held no significance. Yet I paused as I walked by his street, pausing, scanning for his car, questioning if his memories matched mine. Pointed, charged, perilous. I steered clear of my friend's place for days. I turned down her invites, feigned headaches, and cited errands. She accepted it without doubt. Her thoughts swirled around her plans, work, and constant talk of renovations and trips. Yet, I realized I couldn't maintain it indefinitely. I must confront him once more. Act or don't act. Running into him elsewhere felt like a breath of fresh air. Common ground. I volunteered twice a month at the local community center for a literacy program. Just wrapped up a session packing my things when I spotted him in the hallway, chatting with someone by the entrance. He donned a jacket atop a dark shirt, paired with jeans, his hair a bit tousled. He appeared unremarkable, friendly. Every part of me ignited at the sight of him. He noticed me. Our gazes locked. His lips remained still. I swiftly averted my gaze, feigning focus on the papers I clutched. His footsteps echoed before his voice broke the silence. "Helping out today?" he inquired nonchalantly. I looked up. "Forever will." He stood by the door, arms crossed, eyes fixed on me, his expression a mystery. "Didn't think I'd run into you here." "Same here." A moment of stillness. "I left something for you." I scowled. "Huh?" He retrieved a crumpled note from his jacket and placed it on the table's edge. "Quick question." "Nothing else." I held back. I focused on his fingers instead. They lingered against the wood. A moment stretched into eternity. A text could have been sent. I remarked, feigning indifference. "You cut me off." He responded with grace. "Simply truth." I stayed silent. He retreated, gaze locked on me. "Be well." He vanished, a whisper of cologne lingering in the air. Pristine, crisp with a hint of metal. I paused for a whole minute before reaching for the paper. It was easy. His scrawl swift yet clear. "If I requested another meeting just for a chat, would you agree? Unnamed. Time's up. Take it easy." I tucked it away gently, pulse racing as if I'd crossed a line. Throughout the journey home, I reminded myself to stay silent. I had crossed the line. It needed to end. That night, as my husband slept soundly beside me, I retrieved the note once more. In the gentle light of my bedside lamp, I read. Suddenly, I was penning a response on the reverse almost instinctively. "Absolutely. One time. That's it." Rest eluded me. My dreams overflowed with fragmented visions. His face was too near. My husband's voice echoes from afar. Paper rips, a sharp whisper in the silence. Upon waking, I felt empty inside, as if my insides had been thoroughly wiped bare. I tucked the note into an envelope and dropped it in the mailbox by his building during my morning stroll. I moved on without waiting for a reply. I wondered if he would ever discover it. I convinced myself it didn't matter. 2 days later, a message came via a mutual acquaintance, a figure from the core, an oblivious courier of unknown goods. A brief nudge. "He'll be at the cafe by the park on Friday around 4. In case you feel like visiting." I regret going. I was aware of that. The day came. I stood before the mirror, slipping into a long-forgotten blouse. Gentle cream textile, short neckline. Sleeves embraced my arms. I picked earrings that swayed gently with each turn of my head. I donned the fragrance reserved for special occasions. As I entered the cafe, nerves twisted my stomach, yet my hands remained calm. He sat at a small table by the window, already present. A cup of coffee awaits him. His phone lay idle. He glanced up as I neared, and for the first time, a new light flickered in his eyes. No mischief. Lacking assurance. Yet a sentiment akin to gratitude. "Hello," I remarked, settling into the chair across from him. "You arrived. Promised I would." He nodded, eyes fixed on me. "Your appearance has changed. Uniquely positive." He grinned slyly. "Extremely." The dialogue began clumsily. We exchanged trivialities. The transformation of the town was striking. The climate. A stint at a design firm. Yet under each word the space between us throbbed with hidden realities. With each lean my breath hitched. Each time his knee touched mine beneath the table, my words unraveled. The kiss went unspoken. I didn't either. As I grabbed my coat, he remarked, "You never did respond to the second question." I stood still. Which question comes next? He locked eyes with me. "Do you wish for a repeat?" I gazed at him, heart racing. "I didn't voice it," he added. "Yet I believe you caught it regardless." I rose, adjusting my coat's front with care. "What makes you believe I haven't responded already?" He cocked his head. "You're still present." The late afternoon sun gilded the pavement. The air chilled, yet my skin sizzled under the fabric. I strode home, unwavering, eyes fixed ahead. That night, I faced the mirror once more before sleep. The earring hung, a lingering touch on my ears. I removed my blouse, folded it neatly, and tucked it away in the drawer, a hidden whisper. My husband shouted from the bedroom, wondering if I had switched off the downstairs lights. I agreed, despite my uncertainty. I slipped into bed next to him, the cafe scent lingering, the echo of a question answered not in words, but in my very presence. And I understood. I had no intention of staying away. I never mentioned I'd show up. No message, no confirmation, no excuse if I wavered. On Saturday morning, as I loaded the dishwasher, my mind wandered to my outfit. The thought arrived unbidden, as familiar as checking the forecast or questioning our milk supply. Organic. Seamless. Perilous. I couldn't shake him from my mind since that cafe encounter. His question lingered in my mind. It lingered in my mind like a haze, blurring what was once vivid. I navigated my day as if on autopilot. Washing clothes, running tasks, friendly chats with neighbors. Yet underneath, a presence awakened, free from blame. No shame. Only the deepening throb of expectation. By noon, I faced my closet, torn between dressing for myself or for him. I picked white. An old blouse untouched for years. It brushed my skin, soft and light. I matched it with fitted jeans, subtle heels, and a coat I donned for moments of visibility. Overlooked. Noted. I informed my husband about my coffee meeting with a friend. His gaze remained fixed on the screen. He inquired about my return for dinner. I expressed my uncertainty. This time the cafe was farther away. This isn't our regular place. Far from our home. A balanced setting, a touch of elegance. More subdued. I entered to see him already in place. 2 cups await him. His smile was delayed. Simply glanced my way, gradually from top to bottom, then back to my visage. The gaze settled deep within me. He remarked on your white attire. I took a seat. You requested it without a request. You responded in silence. He grasped his coffee. I observed his hands, recalling how they clutched the counter's edge before. We chatted briefly. Everyday matters as usual, merely skirting the edge of innocence. His leg grazed mine under the table. We stayed still, unforeseen. What came next? Perhaps it was. Perhaps we had silently consented in the stillness, that the moment had come long before we acknowledged it. He claimed the top spot. He claimed he had something to reveal. A nearby gallery, a pop-up event, he asserted. I trailed behind. Not out of belief, but out of desire. A brief stroll, merely a loop around the block. Yet with each step my breath grew more shallow. He avoided contact, barely glanced my way. The tension crackled between us, electric and palpable. The gallery stood shuttered. He stopped before it, casting a sidelong glance my way, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Such a letdown. I rested against the wall, arms crossed. You always knew it would be. Perhaps. A prolonged hush. He stepped closer. Only one. His hand brushed a strand of hair from my cheek and stayed there. His thumb brushed against my jawline. Leisurely, intentional. I let him go. I refused to tread lightly. He spoke. I murmured. So don't. This kiss lingered unhurried. It emerged gradually, as if it were a memory rather than a revelation. His lips met mine with assurance, yet without haste. My hands found his chest, fingers gripping the fabric. I experienced it all. His breath hung in the air, throbbing rhythm. The heat between us no longer sought permission. No words were exchanged. Words would only diminish its essence. We strolled back to the cafe. I lingered nearby, yet refrained from contact. My heart raced as if I'd sprinted for ages. He stole a quick look at me. Only once. He felt it as well. The kiss held more than heat. It carried profound significance. I entered my vehicle, returned home. The white blouse clung to my skin, a haunting reminder. The air at home was stagnant. My husband arranged the table, ignited candles, and poured wine. His smile greeted me, a proud acknowledgement of his gesture. I imagined we could enjoy a nice dinner, he remarked. Time has passed. I lingered in the doorway, time slipping away. The contrast hit me hard. His effort radiates warmth. His voice held a gentle warmth. I craved a sensation, thankfulness, love, even remorse. I felt empty. I changed into looser clothes and washed the scent from my wrists before sitting down. He shared his week with me, job woes, future gatherings. He inquired, heard me when I spoke. His fingers brushed mine over the table, and I surrendered. Post-dinner, we silently cleared the plates. He lingered at the sink, arms encircling my waist. I tensed. Only a touch. He pressed his lips to my neck, whispering of longing. I conjured a grin. Same here. We hit the hay early. He reached for me once more. This time I answered. I returned the kiss. Allow him to peel away my layers with care. I considered closing the divide. Imagine a world in perfect balance. Yet, the comparisons persisted. His lips met hers. He dances to an unconventional tune. His hands, familiar with my body, no longer sought consent. I remained awake, fingers mapping unseen paths on my thigh while he slept. The air was thick with memories. Collaborative documents. Familiar patterns, freshly laundered. I longed for the unknown. For the first time, I ceased the struggle against my desire. The reality was more straightforward. I required it. Not the excitement. Forget the secrecy. I craved a spark of life once more. He touched that part of me as if it were the sole treasure to preserve. I shut my eyes and found no dreams. I was already experiencing it. Some mornings arrived gentle and hollow, a blank canvas awaiting its first stroke. That Monday stood out. I stirred before dawn broke, the sky a bruise of blue and gray. My husband shifted next to me, yet remained asleep. I observed the rise and fall of his back, and pondered how many versions of myself he thought he really understood, and how many he never saw drifting further away. He lay in slumber as I entered the shower. I lingered beneath the scalding water, feeling it bite my shoulders, cascade over my chest, and trickle down my thighs. I leaned my forehead on the tile, recalling the kiss I shared with someone outside a gallery just 2 days prior. Reflected on my desire once more, not the instant itself, yet the emotions it stirred within me. Inarguable. In the bedroom, I paused at my underwear drawer. I bypassed the familiar cotton and beige lace. I revealed something unusual, a rich crimson ensemble, whispers of silk. It served no purpose of comfort. A choice was made. I chose my outfit with precision that morning. With greater intention than I had in months, a black skirt clung to my hips unapologetic. A snug top that exposed my collarbones. A coat draped carelessly over my shoulders. He asked me once, silently, hinting at the fragrance I wore. I'm wearing it now. Not for the question but for the echo of his voice in that moment. I informed my husband about my errands. I pressed my lips to his cheek in the corridor. His scent was a blend of shaving cream and citrus zest. He smiled as if he still cherished the simplicity of everyday life. The venue lacked charm. A highway rest stop. Just 20 minutes away. He mentioned it nonchalantly in a message the previous night. A tiny exhibit awaits at the Heritage Museum. Maybe a solid reason. I realized it transcended the art. Upon my arrival, his car awaited. He rested upon it, fingers tucked away, sunglasses perched atop his head. He appeared both youthful and confidently self-assured simultaneously. I despised how my body responded before my mind could comprehend. "You came," he said, stepping forward. "Certainly," I replied. We wandered through the museum, exploring rooms filled with vintage farming tools and historical photographs. We hardly glanced at them, two souls merely passing through, treading a path of indifference, stifling every breath. He kept his distance, yet I sensed it rising. Words hung in the air, glances flickered, his presence always a breath away. A small video installation looped in the final room, a movie exploring forgotten train paths, seldom seen by viewers. We lingered in the shadows unseen. "This is driving me crazy," he said, his voice low and firm. "You occupy my thoughts endlessly." I swallowed, the floor tilting slightly beneath me. "Don't do it." "You shouldn't either," he replied. "And so it is." No response was given. I moved in closer. He remained silent. I acted without a second thought. This kiss felt unlike any before. Lack of wonder, absolutely none. Heat and hunger collided, months of restraint shattering in an instant. His hand brushed my back, sending a shiver through the fabric, fingers grazing the curve of my back, then pressing firmly just above my hips. I pressed my lips against his with unexpected intensity. I yearned to close the gap between my past self and my evolving identity. He withdrew, breath shaky, his forehead pressed to mine. "If we continue down this path," he whispered, "you won't want to quit." "I really don't," I said. We lingered, inhaling the stillness. We exited the museum in silence. The wind howled outside. My coat fluttered open, and I welcomed it, indifferent to the gazes around me. I sat in the car, hands in lap, gazing out the window. He drove at a crawl, one hand gripping the wheel, the other hovering near the gearshift, near my knee. At the red light, he finally uttered a word. "How about an adventure next weekend? Merely a day. Away from here." I faced him. "Why not? I long to be by your side." Unapologetically authentic. I hesitated before responding. Thoughts whirled around logistics, risks, and tales waiting to be shared. Yet my heart had whispered yes. On the porch, my husband awaited my return that evening. With a wine glass in one hand and a fresh novel in the other, he embraced the evening. He inquired about my day. I mentioned it was lengthy. He pressed his lips to my forehead, whispering that dinner was nearly done. Candlelight dinner once more. He expressed pride in my community involvement. He remarked that I was stunning in black. A smile crept across my face. That night, he sought me out in bed. I allowed it. His hands glided, deliberate and measured. I replied minimally. I produced the perfect sounds, ensuring my body stayed warm under his. Yet within, I existed in a different realm altogether. In that shadowy gallery corner, silk brushed my skin, a foreign mouth on mine, a voice distinct calling my name as if it held significance. I curled inward, gazing at the ceiling. No tears fell. No guilt lingered. I felt merely awake. Next weekend I would go. I just knew it. In the ensuing days, I acted precisely as anticipated. Dinner cooked, towels folded, emails answered. I booked a dental visit, collected the dry cleaning, and replenished the bird feeder outside. To an outsider, I appeared satisfied. My husband even brought it up during breakfast one morning. Noted I appeared brighter, more engaged. His words came with a smile. I returned the smile. I was mastering the art of comfort as my second skin, yet within I wandered elsewhere. Once more I found myself in that hallway, his lips pressed to mine, his fingers tracing my spine. In the passenger seat, I watched trees streak by as we sped toward an undefined destination. Within a hidden realm I found my essence. The more time I spent there, the more it became my true home. I hadn't made it official, but I felt certain I'd join him that weekend. It was never about fleeing. It was not defiance. It was pure insight. I discovered an unfamiliar version of myself, and I was reluctant to part with her. As I prepared for the inevitable, I reminded myself to set things straight at home, or at least give the illusion of it. I suggested dinner reservations for Saturday, fully aware we wouldn't go. I mentioned to my husband that I might go see my sister in the city. He nodded, lost in thought, avoiding further questions. Perhaps he felt it beneath the surface, yet swiftly concealed it. Thursday brought her into view, her son my companion. She had asked me to join her for lunch, relaxed as ever. She discussed the familiar topics, her tasks piled high. A looming journey, a dish to experiment with. She left him unmentioned. Never. He lingered in every corner of that house. The faint trace of his scent clung to the couch pillows. His shoes lingered by the back door. His voice lingered in my mind, and I found myself looking toward the hallway repeatedly. She handed me a cup of coffee. I agreed. My hand shook a bit as I raised the cup. I convinced myself it was merely caffeine. As I was about to leave, she accompanied me to the door, inquiring if all was well. Her voice shifted just a touch, completely above board. Intrigued, perhaps even soft. I grinned too fast. Absolutely, what reason could there be? She tilted her head, studying me for a moment that stretched on. Then she remarked, "You seem different these days. Seems you're deep in thought." I chuckled, strained. Perhaps I am. Her fingers brushed against my arm. Contemplation can lead to peril. I departed her home, feeling unexpectedly vulnerable. Her words echoed in my mind all the way home. Contemplation can lead to peril. She was completely unaware. Perhaps she did. Women intuitively perceive changes in the atmosphere, even if they lack the words to express them. That night I gathered a few essentials. I mentioned my sister to my husband once more. I kissed him goodnight and lay next to him in the dark, eyes wide, heart racing against the mattress. He departed for work at dawn. 15 minutes passed after the door shut. Then I got dressed. I donned the same red lingerie. An unfamiliar dress. Short heels, a hint of makeup, untouched for months. I felt like a stranger in my own skin. I resembled a long-buried version of myself. He collected me at the town's border. Silence reigned initially. We cruised along, windows ajar, hair tousled by the wind. Soft melodies drifted from the radio. Unmemorable. Midway to the next city, he took my hand. I allowed him to have it. I gazed through the window, holding on tight. We paused in a quaint seaside village. Silence. Modest. We arrived at a bed and breakfast, infused with the scents of lavender and salt. The desk attendant inquired about our celebration. He agreed. I let it stand uncorrected. Narrow streets beckoned. Lunch by the water called. A bottle of wine shared beneath a canvas umbrella. He posed questions he had never posed before, reflecting on my youth, my missed chances, the dreams that kept me awake. I spoke honestly, not out of obligation, but to finally voice my truth. His attention was sharp, a rare intensity one hadn't experienced in ages. He chuckled at my wit, questioned my doubts, brushed my knee under the table just enough to leave me gasping. That day, our lips remained untouched. We kept it casual, never crossing into intimacy. Yet, a connection formed between us, unwavering and certain. That night at the inn, I lingered before the mirror. I removed my dress, gazing at my reflection as if it were a revelation. A gentle knock echoed on the bedroom door. I hesitated before responding. I pressed my fingers to my belly, shut my eyes, carried the burden of each choice that brought me to this moment. I finally opened the door. He lingered, mute, expressionless. Silence speaks. I moved aside, granting him entry. We remained untouched. We sat on the bed's edge, our shoulders touching. The space around us throbbed. "I don't want to destroy your life," he said abruptly. I faced him. "So don't." He stared at me endlessly. He declared I crave more. Uncertainty lingered. Was it time, more of me, or something else? I nodded. That night, as we lay side by side, fully clothed, sharing whispers in the dark, I grasped a truth I had long avoided. Transcended the physical. It was never so. It revolved around recognition. Noted, selected. In that tiny borrowed space, distant from the known, I sensed a connection once more. Not for him, to no one, For me, this was meant to be the final moment. The agreement lingered, unvoiced yet palpable in the pauses of our dialogue. A brief escape, a quick getaway, then we would go back to our own paths. Me speaking to my husband, to my rituals, to the security of the framework. He awaited whatever semblance of normalcy followed me. As we said goodbye on Sunday, his kiss on my hand and the way he held the door without a gentle touch on my back revealed a deeper connection had begun. By Monday morning, I was back in the groove of home life. At 7:10, the kettle sang its song. The washer whirred at 8:15. The neighbor's dog barked at 9 as if on cue. Yet I sensed myself gliding through it all as if I were an unfamiliar vessel. My gestures were precise. My smiles came effortlessly. My husband kissed my cheek, praised my hair, and suggested we plan something for the weekend. I suggested we wait and see how the week unfolds. He held back. Yet, the part of me that had awakened in that serene coastal town, that had shared silent breaths beside him in bed, would not be silenced. He had abandoned a part of me I never realized was essential. Now I bore it like a hidden truth beneath my flesh. 3 days slipped by quiet as shadows. Silence reigns, no calls, no welcomes. I was caught off guard. I convinced myself I required the space. I wrapped it around me, smooth and pure, a comforting embrace. By Thursday, the silence shifted. Space had vanished. It was burdensome. A persistent, gnawing pain lodged in my spine, intensifying with each hour of his silence. That evening, I wandered aimlessly. I wandered familiar streets, yet they seemed strange. The stores, the streetlights, the meticulously pruned hedges. All felt dull, mere stage pieces in a life I had outgrown. Heels clicked gently on the pavement, guiding me to the park. I had no intention of going there. My feet led the way. Perched on a bench by the path, I lingered under the stark branches of trees. Autumn's whispers danced on the breeze. Moist foliage, a distant whiff of hidden fire. I huddled in my coat, motionless, absorbing the distant sounds of joggers, barking dogs, and snippets of conversation drifting past. Then I spotted him. He was moving away from me. He didn't even glance my way. He lingered by the pond, hands tucked away, observing the water's quiet ripples that stung to behold. I stayed still. I held my breath. Yet, a whisper of intuition stirred within him. A hidden thread, a flow of focus. He turned and our gazes locked. His lips remained still. He approached confidently. It sat beside me as if planned, as if nothing was left undone. "I never expected to see you," he remarked. I gazed at him, unsure. "What brings you here?" He merely shrugged. "I visit here occasionally, reflect." "And you?" "Likewise." He glanced my way. "Deceiver." I exhaled, a sound that might have been laughter or a cry, depending on the ear that caught it. Silence enveloped us as we lingered in stillness. The sun sank, bathing his face in golden hues. In that light he appeared older, not due to age, but from something etched in his expression. A yearning perhaps, or an understanding. He shattered the stillness first. "I'm departing at the week's close. Received a job offer in Denver." A weight fell within me like a stone sinking in water. "Until when?" I inquired. He shook his head in disbelief. "Uncertain. Perhaps forever." I turned my gaze. My throat constricted. "That's approaching quickly." I had no intention of sharing this. I believed it would simplify matters. Who benefits? Silence followed. He dug into his coat pocket and retrieved a folded note. He withheld it from me. He simply grasped it with his fingers. "If you wish to see me again before I leave," he said, setting the note on the bench between us, "your choice is essential." I glanced at the note. The wind pulled at its edge, yet I held the corner firm with my fingers. He rose, hesitated. "I have no regrets," he stated, "but I refuse to be just another secret." He turned and left. The note held my gaze. I left it closed. Not immediately. I lingered on that bench as the sky faded to violet, and the lamps began to flicker on, one by one. Upon unfolding it, simplicity revealed itself. A location, a moment, and 3 phrases, none required. I slipped it into my coat pocket and strolled home, more slowly than usual. That night sleep eluded me. I rested beside my husband, attuned to his rhythmic breath. I observed the outline of his hand on the blanket, the gentle imprint of his wedding ring. I searched my mind for the last night we lingered in conversation. He last touched me as if he were lost in the moment. I pondered whether he ever realized how much I had faded away, even while beside him. He kissed me goodbye before heading to work in the morning. He inquired if I needed anything from the store. No. He departed. I sat at the kitchen table, the note before me, fingers tracing the handwriting repeatedly, hoping to uncover something unseen. I was uncertain about attending, yet I was aware of this. I could no longer ignore his presence. I couldn't act like it was insignificant. Life's moments often come unannounced. The paper warmed my fingers, echoing the heat of his touch. The handwriting, known, precise, subtly slanted, remained steady. It would have been mine. I scanned the address once more, then checked the time. Saturday, 4 p.m. One line only, devoid of emotion or plea. A door slightly open, just a crack. Should I choose to walk through it, it will be on my own terms. All day I felt like I was submerged. I folded towels thrice, then refolded them twice again. I drifted through the rooms, clutching a mug of tea, now tepid and forgotten. No tears fell, no panic set in. What I experienced was elusive, difficult to articulate. A hint of grief, not for what I would lose but for the self I could no longer embody. I envisioned staying away. I practiced the words I'd tell myself. It felt genuine, yet ephemeral. Fleeting illness. A secret to keep yet not chase. I longed for the comfort of the known. The gentle fading of feeling. The serene stillness of a union long molded by unspoken words. I would genuinely attempt to erase the memory of being desired without any strings attached. Yet, the more I envisioned that existence, the more I felt trapped. That evening, I lay in bed next to my husband. He read quietly, the lamp's glow softly illuminating his features. His lips moved gently, tracing the lines of the page, hand on thigh, a finger nestled between chapters. I struggled to recall the sensation of his touch without drawing comparisons. I sought the warmth I remembered in him. I discovered it. A memory far away yet vivid, our formative years. His breath lingered on my neck. His voice trembled as he whispered he didn't deserve me. I switched off my light and curled onto my side. He came moments later, his arm grazing against mine. Silence enveloped us. He pressed his lips to my shoulder, lost in thought. I lay awake, eyes wide, attuned to his breath as dawn's light slipped through the blinds. The following day unfolded quietly as intended. I navigated my day like a dance, each step a part of the routine. Shopping for groceries, replying to texts, lingering at red lights. I averted my gaze from the note once more. No need for that. The address was etched in my mind. On Saturday, I informed my husband that I required some solitude. I mentioned visiting an art exhibit, perhaps followed by a stop at a bookstore. His lips brushed my temple. "Take your time," he said. I certainly did. I left the town quietly. Silence reigns, direction lost. The path felt known, though the end was uncertain. My grip on the wheel was firm, yet a storm brewed in my stomach, something beyond mere nerves. It became clear. This was no longer his story. This was my story. The house lingered still and serene at the woodland's edge. Isolated yet accessible, clearly a rental. Fleeting. Join us. The gravel crunched beneath my tires as I entered the driveway. I lingered for a minute, engine silent, key clutched in my hand. Finally I escaped. He swung the door wide just as my hand approached. Silence reigned between us. Not immediately. I moved past him into a room bathed in soft afternoon light. A humble area. A couch, books piled on the table, a half-zipped bag by the window. It lacked a sense of life. He didn't seek to embellish it. It brought me solace. He lingered behind me, a breath away, untouched. Only inhaling. "I didn't expect to see you here," he finally admitted. "I nearly didn't. Yet you did." I faced him. Affirmative. The quiet between us had changed. Light and clear, overflowing with unspoken words. I perched on the couch's edge. He settled beside me, maintaining a careful space. His hand lingered on the cushion that separated us, flat hand down. A gift, not a request. I have no idea what this means, I replied. Same here. Today is a mystery. I won't request that of you. We lingered in silence, our mere existence heavy in the air. At last I reclined, letting out a deep breath. This is new for me, I admitted. Deceived? Chosen by me. It brought a gentle, bittersweet smile to his face. He leaned in, grasping my hand at last. His thumb brushed softly along my wrist, reminiscent of how he had once caressed my jaw in the kitchen, before everything changed. I want you to understand, he said, that this doesn't need to transform to hold significance. It matters now, I insisted. That's the issue. He pressed his lips to mine. Not pressing, not in the mood for food. Absolutely. And I returned the kiss. We sprawled on the couch, limbs intertwined, silence enveloping us. My head rests on his chest, his fingers gliding over my arm in gentle, soothing motions. Future conversations were absent. We never spoke of farewells. We merely were united, halted. He eventually asked if I'd like to stay the night. I shook my head. I'm heading home. He remained silent. He guided me to my car, his hand resting at the small of my back as if it were meant to be. The sky was a bruised fruit, dark and ripe. I opened the door, hesitated, gazed at him. Could you give me a call? I inquired. That's what you desire. No response was given. I entered, shut the door, and drove away. I went back home that night. The porch light remains aglow. To the husband who lingered, offering a gentle kiss and inquiring about dinner, I replied to him. A smile crossed my lips. I inquired about his day. I slid into bed next to him. Memories of him lingered even as I stepped back into my old routine. For the first time I felt whole. I felt complete, for a fleeting instant. I once thought that going back was the same as erasing. Returning home to this life, this house, this marriage felt like a chance to erase the past, as if his absence could purify our existence. Yet I've gained insight. You never come back the same. You bring things home. Silent moments. Hidden wonders. Fleeting look. A blaze. A names form silent on your lips. Somehow you squeeze them into the tiny gaps between making the bed and pouring coffee. Like forbidden treasures within. The next few days unfolded with an unremarkable sameness I hadn't experienced in months. They were utterly intolerable. Aroma of basil mingled with dish soap in the kitchen. The radio buzzed with familiar soft news. My husband inquired about unread books and unwatched movies. I replied with nods, vague answers, and carefully timed smiles. I spoke the truth, not in the usual way. I let the quiet convey more than words ever could. In silence, I held on to his final image, in the doorway of the rented house. His hands lingered, warmth echoing from my touch. His face remained motionless, like he was etching a secret into his mind, something he wouldn't dare request from me. I never said he shouldn't call. I hadn't instructed him to do so. He did not. I convinced myself this was for the best. All that needed to be expressed was expressed. The moment slipped away. Or perhaps it had found its calm. As particles settled in a forgotten space, one afternoon my friend rang me up. Her son. Her voice remained unchanged, cozy, refined, infused with a vibrant energy that propelled discussions forward, never allowing questions to linger. He departed. She spoke. Denver. Opportunity knocked. Gone by Monday after a weekend pack-up. You were aware, weren't you? Absolutely. I spoke too fast. Are you all right? She inquired. The question felt odd, given I wasn't the one parting ways. All good. She hesitated, then continued. He mentioned your kindness towards him. Her voice held a quality, neither accusatory nor inquisitive, simply present. A declaration emerged, spoken to linger in the air. Fingers crossed. I spoke. I made an effort. The call concluded abruptly. She held back. I lingered on her words for hours. You showed him kindness. I yearned for laughter. Kindness seemed inadequate, not as I had caressed him, desired him, stolen away. Maybe it was. I never attempted to possess him, to find him in that stillness where no one owned another. Everything felt like a green light to truly live. 7 days went by. Next one, silence lingered. I refrained from writing. Not that I lacked desire, yet what we created couldn't be molded anew. Distance was never its purpose. Or rendition, thrived for just that one season. Concise, blazing, whole in its lack of wholeness. One evening my husband discovered me outside, wine glass in hand, well past sunset. He emerged onto the porch, propped up by the railing. Silent gaze upon me for a moment. "You've transformed," he spoke. Silently. I gazed upward. In what way? Unsure. Only. "You've grown silent, not blue. Simply elsewhere." No response came. I was unsure how to proceed. I yearned to share it all, yet hold back entirely. He was innocent. I had unwound in the void of something I didn't realize I craved until it returned. He settled next to me. Our hands touched. I realize I've allowed things to slip away. He stated, "I believed you enjoyed the silence. Perhaps we remain so." He acknowledged, "I can't bear the thought of losing you." I faced him. He appeared weary, yet not from age or toil. Searching within for what I've long since shed on the surface. "I'm still here." I spoke. It was the truth, yet he hadn't completely discovered me either. I no longer fit into a single space. I existed in fragments of time. I now select my lingerie with purpose. Even in solitude, I entered the room, fully conscious of my presence, not for its appearance. Yet the sensation lingered. The way I caressed my husband, not from obligation, yet by preference. Measured and unhurried, though my thoughts occasionally wandered. That night we found each other again that night, with a presence I haven't felt in months. He wept afterward. Not crying, only quiet tears that gathered and fell. He gripped me more firmly than before. It was as if he sensed a change, an unspoken shift between us. I let him go. I allowed him to embrace me. I allowed him to hold on to whatever narrative he required. Then I found myself alone in the bathroom. The mirror reflects merely the outlines of my form. I didn't despise myself. I also didn't love myself more. Yet I grasped my essence. That weekend I strolled along the park's edge, the very spot where our paths had crossed by chance. Leaves started to drift down, sharp and twisting at the borders. I approached the bench we once occupied and took a seat mindlessly. I stood alone, no one in sight. Yet his presence lingered. Not next to me, not in a whimsical, ethereal manner. Yet within me, a void had formed when he first uttered careful driving. I murmured, just a whisper lost in the breeze. "Thanks." Not for the romance, yet it brings me back to who I am. For a fleeting moment, just once,